Okay, hi everyone. Let's take a look at this job order costing problem. Now, I'll read that first paragraph. This is what you see right here. Okay? Collegiate Publishing began operations on March 1st. Jobs 301 and 302 were completed during the month, and all costs applicable to them were recorded on the related job cost sheets. Now, these are the job cost sheets over here. 301, 304, 301, 302, 303, 304. Okay, so let me go back to reading it. Now, jobs 303 and 304 are still in process at the end of the month, and all applicable costs except factory overhead have been recorded on the related cost sheets. Okay, and in addition to what they've recorded on the job cost sheets, and remember that's for identifiable direct cost plus any factory overhead that we have added to the jobs based on a predetermined overhead rate. Okay, so we've got a couple additional costs. $7,500 of indirect materials, they provide that there. $11,800 of indirect labor. And then what we're going to do is journalize the information. Okay, so we have to journalize the summary information. Now, down below, I've put the information provided in Excel, just so Excel can do some of the math for us. Anything in black is what was provided. Anything in red means we have to calculate it. And I guess there's one, I probably should have made these red. Let me do that. Okay, so if we look at what they've done, we see that factory overhead is a percentage of direct labor at 66%. And they tell us factory overhead applied to all four jobs. They tell us right here, a single overhead rate is used based on direct labor cost, okay? So if I take direct labor, or factory overhead as a percentage of direct labor, I get 66%. Okay, that's that calculation you can see right there. By the way, you can look here or you can look up here to see it. And it was used consistently, so now I know that I've got a 60% rate, therefore I can then just calculate the factory overhead on the jobs where they haven't completed it and we have to add that, right? So if we use 66%, we get those amounts. Now we can do the calculations. Yeah, now they gave us 22,452 and 47,496, but we have to actually calculate those. It's not hard, just add them up. So now we have the total costs. And then we have the indirect material and indirect labor that they gave to us. So let me slide down and show you the various entries. Okay, so let's focus on the first entry. The first entry relates to materials. 71.8 goes into work in process relating to the jobs for the month. There's our 71.8. Factory overhead relates to the 75 of indirect materials. Remember that indirect materials get charged to overhead. So we are crediting materials. Some companies may call that materials control. So other companies may call it raw materials. Use whatever your organization uses or whatever your textbook tells you to use on problems like this. All right, so that's our first entry for material, and of course that balances. Now, how about for work in process for labor? Well, the credit would be wages payable, right? Credit wages payable to show the obligation. We need to figure out how much of those wages get assigned to various jobs. Well, we know that we had labor of 55.9 coming from our job cost system, right? So 55.9 relates to direct labor and 11.8 is indirect labor. So that's our wages entry. Now, the third entry is the application of overhead. Okay, the total overhead assigned to job was 36,894, so we credit factory overhead and we debit work in process. Remember that factory overhead is getting accumulated in a factory overhead account. Now in the real world, there's far more than just one account used, and the credit usually is to an account called factory overhead applied or simply applied overhead. But most textbooks simplify this and treat all factory overhead, whether it's for supplies or outside services or fringe benefits or indirect labor. Most textbooks, when they teach this, just use one account. So we credit factory overhead for the total amount of overhead that was applied to the job. Okay? And then the last entry we have to make is to transfer from work in process to finished goods for the cost of the goods that were completed during the period. All right, now, these were the only two jobs completed, 301 and 302. They told us that this was in process at the end of the period. So it would be the total of the jobs completed. Now, maybe what I should do is write jobs completed over here. And actually, this is the cost of jobs completed, but I think you guys will get the point. And we're going to add that 22 to that 47, come up with 69,948. And that's this problem, everyone. Thank you.